in a small place outside of Halifax called Spryfield. I live in a real small kind of cottage community now in Hubbard, Nova Scotia. Probably about 400 people here. So love my small kind of living, and I love my friends, my family. I keep things pretty simple, to be honest. I grew up in a maybe a little bit of a rougher community. I grew up primarily in a single parent family home, so sports was probably something that gave me a lot of opportunities that my sort of my family life definitely didn't provide. I got to meet other families. I got to travel a little bit. So, the one thing great about the Spryfield community is that it's really done a great job using sports and the values you can gain through playing sports at a young age. It really provides a lot of opportunities for kids in that area. So I think I was one of those kids that benefited from a community that was all in on activity and all in on sports. And from there, obviously, just continued to play. I think a lot of it then was more the friendships that I was able to get through my playing career. And honestly, even as I go on to like the university level, when I played at University in New Brunswick first, and then I played at St. Mary's to finish up my career. And honestly, I don't know if I would have went to university if it wasn't for hockey. I think hockey was sort of the avenue to get me there. And then when I got there, I started to appreciate, obviously, the academic side of it much more than even the hockey side of it. So, it's really powerful, the friendships and the connections you can make as a young kid, and the values that you can learn coach or being involved in sport. And then ultimately it got me to probably appreciate my academic side a little bit more as well. I had a coach at the University of New Brunswick. His name is Mike Johnson. Mike coached at UNB. He also coached Canada's national team for an Olympic cycle. He's coached World Juniors. He's coached in the NHL. And I think what it showed me, I wasn't necessarily the best player at the university level. I started to look at the game a little bit differently. I started to dive a little bit more into what Mike was doing as a coach to help us achieve our goals. And so I think he gave me a different appreciation for the work or the job that a coach does. So I started, partway through that year, I started to dive a little bit deeper into it. Actually, an opportunity came to help out a little bit with the women's team at UNB. Had a club team, and I had the opportunity to run a couple practices, and that was sort of my first real experience with coaching. So I think the big part was just to be coached by someone like Mike, and to see the value that he brought to our group, and how deep he dove into what it takes to coach. It just gave me a whole different appreciation. And that's not to knock the coaches that have had previous to Mike. I think the coaches previous to Mike taught me a lot about myself and taught me a lot about what it was to be a good teammate. But Mike was definitely more on the scientific side of it, and the real details that he really definitely opened my eyes to. I was an assistant coach at Acadia University on the men's side, and I loved it. And my experience there started because my assistant coach at St. Mary's, when I was finishing up my degree, he had got a head coaching job at Acadia. So, I assumed the type of teammate I was when I played under him, gave me that opportunity to be an assistant coach at Acadia. And I think that was the first time that I really thought, like, this is an opportunity that not too many people get, and it's an opportunity that would be a great stepping stone and a great foundation for me if I choose to make hockey a living. And I thought it was great because I had the opportunity to start with a new head coach. So it was his first. Darren Burns is still actually at Acadia right now, and it was his first year coaching at Acadia. And it was just fun to kind of rebuild a program together. So I really appreciate that he, gave me that opportunity. I learned so much. I wouldn't say I was necessarily full-time. I tried to pretend I was full-time. I worked a little bit at a sports store, and I did a little bit of work at the grocery store as well, trying to pretend that I was a full-time hockey coach. But Darren Burns and the whole Acadia University athletic department just set me up for great success to start out my career. And then I went back to junior hockey for a little bit, and part of it was just for me to get some experience as a head coach. And those experiences obviously probably set me up for an opportunity. I coached at St. Thomas University. I was the head coach of the men's team there, and although it didn't necessarily end the way I would have wanted to, I thought it was sort of the first high-level head coaching job that I had the opportunity. And a lot of people at St. Thomas were great for me in that new role. And then obviously somewhere between then and now, I switched more to the women's side. And I had a great opportunity through real difficult times with COVID to coach the Dalhousie women's hockey team. And I absolutely loved it. It was a really difficult time with COVID, but I found to help that program rebuild, but also just some of the character and the quality people that I had an opportunity to coach there. It was, coaching job, you move around a lot, you change jobs, and it's arguably one of the more difficult decisions I had to make when I decided to step away to coach in the PWHL. I felt like I made such great connections with the staff there, but also the athletes, and still feel like I had great relationships with them now, but I absolutely love my time at Dalhousie. And it's like the one thing, like obviously now I'm coaching the national team, and I coach in the Professional Women's Hockey League, and none of it would be possible, to be honest, without some of those experiences that I've had through youth sport. It's such a valuable, like it's a high level, so I don't want to treat it like it's a training ground, but if it's the national team you're looking at, the youth sport level is an unbelievable training ground for any coach that's aspiring to either be a professional coach or coach internationally. It's obviously really hard to put into words. I remember like specific little moments that just kind of, I guess, clicked for me. Is like I remember in 2022 and just recently named the head coach of that team, and I remember like standing at the opening ceremonies and just about to go in, and I just heard over the PA system, "Welcome Team Canada," and I was just like, it was a bit of a pinch me moment. I'm like how did I end up here? Like it's not something that was ever necessarily in my plans, but I think the one thing that I think I've been able to do throughout my career is I've generally treated everything like it was the Olympics, whether it's coaching at Dalhousie or St. Thomas or Acadia or even my junior teams that I've coached. I've always kind of treated it like it was the biggest thing and the most important thing in the world to me at that moment. So I felt like when I got there, I was somewhat prepared for the pressure and the experience of all that. But it's only because, I've truly tried to approach all my situations like they were the biggest, the most important thing. And I think part of it was I wasn't looking past anywhere I was, because that maybe was the level that I thought I was going to finish at. Like I can tell you with 100% certainty, when I got the head coaching job at St. Thomas, that was my NHL. Like I was staying at St. Thomas for the rest of my life, and I was going to retire there, and that was my plan. And it's just funny, life changes, opportunities come, and sometimes when you're not necessarily looking for them, different situations come, and you just got to be prepared to take them. It's honestly bigger than anything I've ever been a part of, including the Olympics. To see what this group of people and obviously their leadership team have been able to accomplish here in such a short period of time, it's going to change the game forever. It really is, and it's really cool to just kind of have a bit of a front row seat to it all. Like no matter what, like it's no secret, I'm a middle-aged man kind of that gets the opportunity to coach in women's sport, and I feel honored to get that opportunity. And there's like, you can see what it's doing for so many young girls that are aspiring to be professional athletes, but there's a side of me that sees it maybe a little bit different at times. And what I've noticed a lot, because I pay a little extra attention sometimes to the boys that are watching, and I think it's really changing the way they look at women's sports as well. And like I'll see our team practice in Toronto, and I'll see like maybe a U15 team that's practicing after us, and I see it in their eyes that when they're watching or when they're practice, they're not looking at it any different than they would at the National Hockey League. They're looking at it, they're looking up to it, and I just think it shows that, because this leadership group has obviously put proper funding behind the Women's Professional League, it's been able to showcase them in the way they deserve to be showcased. And because of that, it just shows different, that young athletes now can look up to it. And I have to think that changes so many dynamics on other levels, whether it's a young boy in grade 6 who is maybe in a class with a young girl that's playing hockey. I have a feeling he may look at her a little different than he did 5 or 6 years ago. When I first started coaching, I wanted to do it for a living, and I pushed a little bit when I shouldn't have pushed, and I think I was approaching it very self-centered, a little bit around how I just wanted to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And then I remember the exact moment, to be honest, and I just stopped to think about, like, what am I doing? Like, why am I, like, is it just to win a championship? Is it just for me to get the next job? And then I started to think, like, if I coached for 25 years and I won 3 championships, is that success? And I don't think it necessarily is. So I kind of tried to shift my focus to, like, I'd rather be judged a little bit in those 22 or 23 years that we actually lost championships. And what was I doing to be a good coach in those moments, in those years? And where it took me is I started to focus more on what my athletes' goals were and what they were trying to achieve individually. And, obviously the team is so important, and you still want to win championships. But when my focus shifted to helping individuals achieve their goals, my team started to win championships, but it helped me individually as well. So I think a big part of hockey goes back to, honestly, when I was young and why I started it, why I built a passion. It was like the little relationships and the little connections that I was able to make when I was younger. Even though it's professional and there's a lot of high stakes internationally, if you can still kind of dumb it down enough to have those as the priority. So building connections, building relationships, helping people achieve their goals. And then I've always had a thing around just like the importance of being a good teammate and what that looks like. Honestly, that shapes almost every decision. It sounds so simple, but it shapes every decision I make. Are you a good teammate? Am I being a good teammate? Am I helping you individually? And are we using sport to make better people, better teams? I got some good advice when I was younger, just to get as many experiences as you can with as many different people as you can. So what I did is I just volunteered as much as I could. I did minor hockey, male, female. I did spring hockey, summer hockey, winter hockey. And what I think it did was it exposed me to a lot of other passionate hockey people. And a lot of people, I think, when they start trying to build a coaching career, they get into one situation, and you're only surrounding yourself with the people in that situation. So trying to expose yourself to as many good people, passionate people around the game, I think that's a big difference maker. I remember at UNB, actually, with Mike Johnson, he told me that if I start getting jobs, like paying jobs in hockey, to not to forget my provincial branch. So don't forget to volunteer with your provincial branch, because you will get the opportunity to meet a lot of good quality coaches through your provincial branch, but you'll also have an opportunity to coach the most high performance players in your province. So I found that was great advice, and I listened to it to a T. And I think anybody now, I think a lot of times our culture is just, everybody seems to be a little bit more in a rush to get where they're going. And I think sometimes the best way you can do it is just take your time, meet a lot of people, kind of, get those experiences, make those mistakes in a more safe environment at the younger foundational level, so you're more prepared to make the right decisions when the pressure's on.